Hi there. That's about all I got. Hi. So this is as I put it here, the Saturday mornings with Trusler and Mac. Welcome to a new podcast. How's everyone doing out there? I am Trusler, or you can just kind of refer to me as Taylor, either or. Probably Trusler, just because that's the name on there. But, yeah, how you doing, everyone? And with me is a co-host and friend living down in the Aussie lands, and he's going by Mac by this. How you doing there?
Hey, this is Greg, everyone. This is pretty awesome. You know me, I seem to jump from one podcast to the next, but I couldn't pass up the opportunity to do a podcast with my good bud here, Taylor. So really looking forward to seeing where this takes us.
Right, and this might sound kind of weird, since we already sort of do a different podcast and stuff, and if you do want to check that out, I have links for it. It's Power On Podcast. But this I kind of wanted to separate, and this actually kind of do on a very regular basis, because I have some free time. Greg says he has free time. Therefore, we're going to try to be productive people.
Try being the word.
Right. Very operative word there is try. The thing is that with the other podcast, we've kind of shied away from gaming, and that was kind of my fault. I don't want to say my fault, but that was just my reasoning, and I kind of fell out of the loop with regards to the community, and part of it's just, Greg knows this, I've always been a bit not prickly, but a bit of a stickler about not really paying attention to gaming news, and it kind of pigeonholes me in not being able to talk about a lot of things. And so I thought, hey, let's actually, I'm actually going to make a concerted effort here to look up some gaming news and talk about it, because yes, so I can actually feel like I'm able to talk to you guys about that sort of thing. I guess it's my mea culpa for botching up everything with the other podcast.
But yeah, looking forward to it. And just to reiterate about that, I'm kind of the opposite, where I am so connected to the gaming news that I actually I felt like I needed a little bit of a disconnect like a couple of months ago, because I was just relying too much and relying on every second to see every hour, and I think that's a little bit too much. Whereas like I've kind of slumped back to just every day, just for like 10, 20 minutes, just check up on the news, instead of like searching every hour. So I think you have to find sort of like the happy medium of like looking at gaming news and not looking at too much, because some developers just put too much in the news and it leaves the mystery of the game.
Right, yeah, there's no gaps for you to kind of be curious about. It's all just kind of right there for you. And hopefully, I think this is the goal with this podcast is to clump up a lot of the bigger news bits, or at least news bits that catch our eye throughout the week, and then kind of recap them. So if you kind of missed something over the week, or you just kind of heard about it, but because how the news comes about so quickly and it's gone so quickly, it's kind of like, oh yeah, that kind of happened. So yeah, and then also we'll have some sort of discussion afterwards. So that's the game plan, isn't that right, Greg?
Yes, I'm looking forward to today's discussion, because it's going to be slightly controversial on at least our behalf. I don't know about the other members of the community, but yeah.
I don't know. It's, we'll get there. We'll get there. So first off, we're going to kind of go through a bits of the news that came up. Do you want me to start off, or?
Yes.
Okay. Well, also, I'll have links down below for any of these things that I bring up or Greg brings up. So, if you want to kind of follow along that way, click them and read along and listen along, and then give us feedback and whatnot. So, the first thing I kind of wanted to talk about that it kind of came like a firestorm, then went out with a dud there, was this whole bit about Valve and the Skyrim mods and paying for Skyrim mods. Now, I don't know. I know I'm not a big Skyrim person. I don't think you really care for it so much, do you there, Greg?
I give lip service to the Elder Scrolls series. Like, I try to get into it. For some reason or the other, I just can't. It doesn't grasp my attention long enough, and I usually go back to playing one of my Japanese RPGs instead. But I don't. It's strange because I don't hate the series. I just don't have any time for it. And I remember back when Skyrim was first released, and I couldn't get into the hype. So, but I've always tried to. One day I was going to see if I could sit down and play a good piece of it, so I could really get into it. But the news about the whole paying for mods, I don't know how to feel about it because it's kind of a world that I've never, took part in. I've never downloaded mods. I've never created mods, so I wouldn't know what the inner workings is. But in a way, it's kind of fan-made DLC, and that's the big thing in this day and age, that everyone wants to basically get every penny out of DLC, and it just seems now, giving it to the, giving sort of like that power to the player, but the only reason they're doing it is because they get a cut.
Well, the thing is that I think that lasted about 2 days, and then they stopped.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, we'll take this down. And then I read up on this, their reasoning for it, which was that they thought if you allow these mods to, be priced for people to buy, it will let programmers who do these sorts of mods more free time. They can do it instead of, having to do some sort of 9-to-5 job, or just, doing some sort of job where they have to earn something. That way they're earning money for their work being put into mods. And they, in that turn, they believe that if they're putting all this time into modding, that they actually will become better programmers, and you'll end up with better mods and a better product. Which I thought was an interesting reasoning. I kind of would agree with that, but I mean, you could also go really, really dark, really, really quick with some of those mods, and it just kind of spiral out of control, being silly.
Yeah.
Thank you, internet. But I mean, what do you think of that reasoning? Do you agree with that, or think it's?
It can be applied to most businesses online. If you have a commodity, something you're really good at, you can be tempted to make money off it. I know that I've seen a lot of things that I would like to earn money from working at home, so I can understand that reasoning. If you have a career building mods, then I'm not really against it, because there's such a big backlash against people that say want to use monetization for making videos and all that, and I actually don't. I don't care if people use it. If they think they can make a living off making videos with monetization, go for it. Not everyone. I'm of the opinion that not everyone can work in the public, and there's a lot of people that we know in the community that have grown up believe that you have to give back to society, and I'm all for that for the majority of people. But I know a lot of people that it would pretty much kill them inside if they were forced to work out in public. So this gives them a nice alternative, and they don't have to stress out too much, and they can make money doing something they want to. So
yeah, until of course now Valve decided that. I mean, I personally think that's a really, really interesting idea that Valve thought that, had that kind of mode of thinking about it. And I'm hoping that in the near future that it will kind of go that route, that it'll be, pay for modding and sort of thing, and allow people to be a little bit more free with their time and how they work. Yeah, some people might say, well, what's the value in doing that sort of thing? But, what's the value of, I do this all the time. I mean, but what's the value of running a register for a company, or for like a fast food place or something? We're at this time of point in society and technology and everything where we're kind of hitting a breaking point where traditional things aren't quite going to make the the cut, I think, as we quote unquote evolve or devolve or whatever, spiral out of control, explode. Kind of thing.
That's the one.
right. Just end, blank out of existence. But I don't know. I seen that and I was like, wow, that's like, when you just see, they're pricing mods, you're kind of But then when you see the Valve's at least alleged reasoning for it, maybe they just kind of did that as lip service. But I mean, I was like, that's kind of a cool way of looking at it, So.
Did you see the tagline most news sites was running when they closed down the idea? Valve closes down paid DLC because of entitled gamers, and they put like parentheses on entitled. And right. I gotta say, yeah, and a lot of people have been coming forward saying, yeah, we are damn entitled because we have the money, but it's because of people from our generation. I don't think this is new people that shot this idea down. It's from our generation that's grown up with full release games in the 90s. And most of the hidden content that would be DLC nowadays were, unlockables. They were hidden. You had to unlock it through doing something crazy or a cheat code. And now we've gone to the age where there is no more unlockables because anything extra is now DLC. And the thing I've just talked to a lot of people from that era is their mandate is they want to return to the way things are. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen, but after this, it's interesting to see what will happen to DLC as a whole.
Yeah, and that would be something we'll have to tackle because that's a huge thing to kind of get into.
And I've got both positive and negative experiences dealing with DLC, so that would be a good episode.
Mm-hmm. So, as I said, do you want to carry us on to the next one there?
Alrighty. Probably one of the biggest pieces of news that happened this week, and it's kind of sad for someone as myself, who was a loyal Konami devout. As everyone you may have heard, the game that was entitled Silent Hills, the co-production between Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro, is officially been cancelled. And unfortunately, this has kind of come months after the news about Hideo Kojima leaving Konami for less than stellar reasons. And I'm not like a big diehard Silent Hill fan, but I kind of saw the potential in that PT demo, and it was of the highest quality. But for Konami to shut that down, it pretty much screams that we don't want to make big AAA titles anymore. Because just the things that have been happening, like taking themselves off the New York Stock Exchange, I'll tell people think that's the end of the company. It's not the end of the company. It just means that they're kind of they're going to actually save more money by taking themselves off the stock exchange, but I think they're going to be putting less money into gaming development because they actually make more money from their pachinko machines and their health clubs in Japan.
Right. Yeah, good old that stuff. I mean, that is what I've also have heard reading through a couple different articles and stuff is that there's a possibility that Kojima and one of the higher ups were having conflicting ideas about the company, and this official thought it was more appropriate for them to kind of bank on those sorts of things like the pachinko and whatnot, because I heard sometime in April or May or something they were supposed to go about the whole talking about in Japan it's illegal to gamble. But yes. So this is how this works. Pachinko is basically a game where you put money in and you turn a knob and metal balls fall out.
Yeah.
That is about the easiest way to explain this damn game. Metal balls fall out, so they fall into this little... You're supposed to get them into certain holes and you collect more metal balls and that's it. You got more metal balls. Congrats. But what allegedly because I never had this happen because I lost all 40,000. Well, not 40,000. That's I only lost 4,000. So like $40. I haven't tried. But I lost all my money playing pachinko. But allegedly, you can take these metal balls to a different location, down the street, across the street, even next door, something like that. Exchange these metal balls for money. That ain't gambling, then I'm confused on what the term gambling is. But but I guess there's something that they might be bringing up and actually kind of tweaking the laws on gambling in Japan. So I haven't really been keeping up with that, but that was something I had read about. So it's a damn shame. I mean, I have not been keeping up on the Silent Hill series at all. I love the first 2 games, and that's all. I tried playing The Room at one point, but it was just a demo, and I was like, okay.
I've heard from the consensus that a lot of people don't like The Room, so. The reason why this hits me hard, not just because of Silent Hills, is pretty much, I'm not too sure if it's going to be the end, but it's pretty much going to be a huge period where gaming is not going to be on the forefront for the company. And, my hopes of seeing something like a Suikoden 6 or a Japanese-made Castlevania game, it's just put to dust, really.
Oh, but you can play pachinko versions of them.
Yeah.
Don't you play pachinko Suikoden 2?
The thing is, though, I'm surprised that I'm taking this as well as I am, because I actually thought about it the other day, Taylor, and I'm thinking about Suikoden, and it's like, everyone wants a Suikoden 6. But then I looked at Suikoden 3. Suikoden 3 is the final game in the timeline, and I took the final volume of my manga, and I read the final pages, and I said to myself, this really is a climatic ending for the series as a whole. And then I basically said, do I want the series to continue? And I think this is a whole another episode we're going to go into about greed, about people that want series to continue living, basically. Well past their use-by date. Like, for instance, everyone's saying that MGS5 is going to be the last Konami game they buy, and I basically said, I actually hope it's the last Metal Gear game they ever make.
I doubt
Not because...
I think they've even said something that there's going to be other Metal Gear games, but...
We talked about, because we've been big Metal Gear fans ever since we've known each other, and I basically remember after Peace Walker, you remember me saying I want a Metal Gear Solid game in the 80s, and that's it. That's going to be the game that comes full circle. Well, they grant my wish, but after looking at this and this amazing game, I said, look, this game looks fantastic. I don't think you're going to top it. It's going to cut really close to the very first Metal Gear game. Just this is it, And the fact that he's leaving really hits home that this is going to be the last sort of quote-unquote official Metal Gear game, and I'm actually excited for it. After this, I'm pretty much going to just leave the series as it is, and I think there's a good quote from one of my favorite movies, The Dark Knight, is you die a hero, you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Right. That can be interpreted to a lot of things, and there's some series where I want them to end so they can preserve this great image throughout all ages. But that doesn't mean that there's some series that I'm not greedy for. I'm going to say this now. I'm a greedy motherfucker when it comes to the series. I want that to continue on for the next 20 or 30 years, honestly.
Well, they could, because they're so bad at wrapping things up, so it's not like it's going to be ending anytime soon from what we can tell.
That's pretty much one of the only ones that I want to continue on. But there's a lot of series that I would be only too happy for them to end or end in the next sort of 5 to 10 years,
Well, we've had this sort of discussion with... I personally feel this way with the Trail series, and I know people are kind of going, what the fuck is he talking about? People, there's technically, there's 7, kind of tangent 8 games so far in the Trails in the Sky, or, Trails in the blah 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 series, and the West, the West really only knows 1. That's the only one that's been translated into English legitly. I don't want to say legitly, that's not right, but by another company. There's a fan translation of Nayuta. Is there any other? I know that you said they were working on Zero and Owl, but
Yeah.
But that's no. But the thing is that this has gone on for 7 legit games, and there is still not a full end in sight unless they just kind of smash everything like all together real quick kind of thing. And it's just like, please, there's you get to a point where it's kind of what's that Shakespearean quote, brevity is the soul of wit. And I understand that having a good chunk, like a good stream of games like Metal Gear Solid and stuff, even though there's only technically 5, there's still a whole bunch of tangent games and stuff. At a point, you got to call it quits. There's a point where you're like, stop it. And I think having Kojima break away from Konami is a good, whether there's rumors that it's all some sort of super trolling thing that these guys are doing and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm hoping that it's legit, that he's going to be like, yep, we're done, and we're gone. See you guys later. Going to do other stuff. I'm cool with that. Give me a Zone and Enders 3. But, you also have how, Hemingway, I believe it was Hemingway, said that, every story ends in death, because, that's what life is. So there gets a point where it's just like, stop it, go on to different things. I think it's better to have like a really, really cool, great trilogy or, couple games here and there, or, at Suikoden, I've only played 1 and 2, but even though I don't have this experience with 3, 4, and 5, I'm like, these 2 games are really, really awesome. They're, concise, and they're nice and pretty, and they're emotional, and this is great. Don't give me, people will harp on Final Fantasy, but Final Fantasy, they kind of recycle their motifs and everything, but it's not like it's 15 damn, it's 15 or it's 14 sequels and it's this continued story. So they can kind of cheat again away with it. Damn you, Final Fantasy. But yeah, so. But that's whew, rant over.
But if anything, this now gives me the reasoning to now officially put Falcom at the top of my list. I mean, it was sort of neck and neck with Konami, but it's like, well, Konami's not really focusing on making games anymore. So yeah. By the way, I think they are going to be making games, but their biggest sellers are from their anime-based games and like
their rhythm games.
Yu-Gi-Oh, rhythm games. That's probably going to be the only sort of sectors they would probably put some money into, but don't anticipate them making big games like Metal Gear Solid or Castlevania anytime soon.
I'm trying to remember. They have so many different rhythm games. I think last one I remember was like they were on like Poppin' 23 or something, or 21. 21 for certain, I know in my head, but I don't know if they've probably gone well beyond that by this point.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with like the DDR machines or anything else they've done, so I don't know if that's still a thing for them, or I would think that would be a very pricey venture to make those machines. So
yeah, but I know that was having big. At least DDR was having a bit of a renaissance in the last couple of years. Not like the massive boom that it had years ago, but. That could be something to talk about. Reminiscing the old DDR days. But, goodness.
Alrighty, moving on to news that makes me really happy. This week saw the release of not 1, but 2 East games. East 6 Ark and Epistom for Steam, which I've already finished. Literally 7 hours before this podcast began. I finished it, and it was really sad because I was kind of battling a very bad ear infection for most of the week, but was on the mend in the last few days. So I sat down and I played, and it was fantastic. The original PC version of Octopistum is amazing. I do recommend everyone get a Steam-enabled controller because it makes your life a whole lot easier.
Nonsense. Use the keypad until you break the keypad. And we can talk stories about how how much we hate using keypads when it comes to East games.
Oh yeah. Ooh. I think I used it for the entirety of Open Felghana, but when I got to Origin, I was like, nah, not happening.
I did that with East 1 and 2. I used the keypad, and I was like, yeah, never again. Nope.
I actually tested East 1 Chronicles with the control pad. It's amazing. It really is amazing with the 360 control pad. One problem I did have with Octopistum that kind of did not allow me to get every item in the game is I had a bitch of a time jumping in that game. Because unlike Open Felghana, you don't have those fancy moves. You only got that one thrusting move with the lightning sword.
Right.
And that's very unpredictable. I said to myself, I think I had an easier time jumping in the PSP version, getting those really hard to get items, because they put him in these really bad... That friggin' ruins of time. Oh, that's such a pain in the ass. Because you have to jump on those narrow pillars.
Yeah.
And in the PC version with the Steam controller, it's near impossible. And I was just like, nah, I can beat the game without it. But and that actually kind of bugs me, because the thing about it doesn't bug me. It just kind of puts my brain in a tears that with these Steam versions of East, they have achievements, right? And some of them are weird. Octopistum is very lax. Like, you don't have to do anything crazy, but like one of them is you have to get all the equipment, and by that you just have to get all the swords, shields, and armor.
There you go.
I'm like, that's pretty easy. It's much harder to get the stuff in the inventory.
Right.
And I'm like, why wouldn't you make that the achievement? You know, because that's a lot more difficult. So. It was just interesting, and the thing about they were advertising for this version is they've got catastrophe mode, where they take away your quick items.
Oh,
so
okay.
you can't heal.
So you're just basically playing East 1 6 style.
Yeah, pretty much.
There you go. I don't know. The last time I played it was on the PSP, and Octopistum is one of those that I feel like it was a bit of a stumbling block with Falcom. Falcom was still like, they had 5, which we've had 5 is 5. It's kind of buried under its title, and it's under the sand, like its game. And then 6 is that transition into 3D, but then it just doesn't quite. I don't know. For me, it's a good first step, but it also feels like a stumbling.
Yeah, I've always said to myself, where was the point where East kind of revamped itself? Where it kind of had new ideas and it kind of revitalized the series in a new direction. And I thought it was Octopistum, but actually, it's kind of Eternal. Eternal came and it expanded on the story of 1 and 2. And then you go to E6, and you can see that E6 borrows heavily from, like, the story of Eternal, and, there's little bits and pieces that they always refer to what happened in Hysteria, and, and sometimes what happens in Celceta, which I think that went really well around with the this XC translation, which is really cool. But yeah, I've enjoyed it more than I've ever had before with this version, which is a good thing, which is a very good thing. But I kind of was a bit more high up than you, that I liked the game, but I thought it was kind of middle of the road. But playing the Steam version, I was like, hey, this is actually better than I remembered it. The E-Series is one of those series I have a bitch of a time trying to rate them all. It's nearly impossible. It's nearly impossible for me to say this is better than this, because they all do something better than each other, and sometimes I feel that this is better, but then next time I feel that the other one's better. It's
whatever one you played last, right?
Pretty much. But yeah, do I recommend it? Yeah, it's fantastic, and it is actually the last of the Windows PC East games. With this, there is no more until they miraculously decide to make another one in the unseeable future. But
but
don't know.
I mean, what they had? They had the last one, because I haven't quite been keeping up with their PC releases, but the last one I remember them doing was Zero no Kiseki, was the last PC release that I was aware of.
I was just referring to East.
Well, no. I know, but I mean just the company itself. That was the
yeah. Well, see, that's the thing is, if they're not invested in PC gaming, the thing that surprised me is they're still hellbent on preserving it, because you can still get all those games and they update them every time a new operating system comes out.
Yeah.
Which no other company will do that. Really, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's a really nice thing that they do. I don't know. I think with at least Napishtim, it felt like maybe it's because the last one I played was the PSP version, so I'm still kind of bitter at how terrible that one felt, because it's kind of laggy. It really feels clunky to me, but maybe that's why I'm kind of a little bit soured on it. I mean,
yeah,
what's it on Steam? $15? That's not terrible.
Oh yeah, it's a 17. It's usually 20, but it's 17, and the first buy releases get the media collection on there, which I'm still trying to find where that file is. By the way, they don't tell you where it downloaded to.
So it's like in a random location each time.
Yeah. But I actually already own the physical version of that disc, thanks to a certain co-host here.
I do what I can.
And it's awesome that I bought that off you last year, and then within a year later, it becomes available to play on Steam. So it's all tied, Taylor. It's all tied.
Right. I'm a year ahead of everyone.
So I do. So as someone who played the PSP version first and played this absolutely dwarfs it. It runs in 60 frames.
Right. I'm sorry.
It runs in 60 frames. It's so fluid. It's really good. Definitely go get it. We'll definitely have a Falcom episode. I'm going to talk about one of the reasons why Falcom Games is my favorite company, and I think one of the quick reasons I'm going to end this with is I really like Napishtim because of the dialogue changes, and I didn't notice how many there were before I played the PC version. There are a ton. Like, I remember there's one segment where you would have one story conversation, you go back and the entire townsfolk would have something new to say. And we'll talk about that another stage,
Okay.
Because it's really good to get into. But ending off the East news, East 1 Chronicles also got released on iOS. This is something that I knew was going to happen a very long time ago, because East 1 2 lends itself to touch controls.
Right, you don't have to do anything, just move.
But I've been hearing some bad news reports that you're using a virtual D-pad, which kind of makes me go, I haven't checked into it too much, but I assume that you would run your finger around the screen and Addo will follow wherever your finger is. That's... Yeah, but then you have to...
Wait, so it's you just... Like, so it is a virtual D-pad?
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing.
I think that's a good thing, because if it's not, I'd be worried about, like,
collision?
More so like sticking my fat finger on something and then just completely missing enemies being underneath that fat finger. And then all of a sudden I'm dead because they're not kind.
Well, yeah, and that reasoning, yeah, for like an iPhone, that would be torture. I can understand the D-pad for that, but if you're using an iPad, I reckon you can definitely do the finger motion detection because the screen's big enough. So,
true.
If you want to know what this does differently, it's pretty much East Chronicles, which is not a bad thing. It's my second favorite version of East 1 and 2. It's only East 1 to begin with, and 2 will be following shortly. But I thought to myself, that is a game that I would like to see on iPad. I would like to see if it can bring some of the iPhone generation to the East series and give Falcom some more of your money. And then this other company that programmed it for them.
Was it .emu or dot?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, give Falcom some of your money. I'm tired. Oh, not tired of giving Falcom my money, but they're on a short lease with me. Damn you, Falcom. But
yeah, we'll talk about that because I'm kind of a little bit worried as well. But But yeah, just this awesome week of East news. But the only East news I really want to hear about is 8.
Right. And it will never come out.
Oh, that would be a travesty. That would break me. That would break me. Oh well. Now we're going to get into some really awesome discussion, which is going to slightly tie into our end of episode discussion as well. But there's some big news on Fire Emblem Myth, and one of the news that was released today is they're talking about the variations of the two versions, the White Kingdom and the Black Kingdom version, where they're basically marketing White Kingdom for newcomers to the series and fans of Awakening, people that came on Fire Emblem Awakening. And the Black Kingdom is going to be more aimed towards fans of the older fans of the series and make it a lot more difficult with a lot more conditions for winning a battle. And that's awesome. I came into it knowing that I'm going to buy both versions because, hey, it's pretty much different content for each version, and it's going to extend the life of the game, which is going to be amazing. But it's going to be awesome to see that they're catering to every kind of Fire Emblem player. And for me, I can have that gradual difficulty progression with playing White Kingdom to Black Kingdom. And I've already talked to Taylor about this. However, what he doesn't know is the new piece of news that just came out about the third scenario.
Da-da-da.
And this is where it's going to put a lot of Black Kingdom players off. The third scenario is going to be more difficult than White Kingdom, but it's actually going to be more easier than Black Kingdom.
Oh, but what's the... I guess is the third supposed to be like a continuation of after that, or is it just supposed to be another if scenario?
There is no hard news on it yet, so it's just accept that it exists.
Well, okay, I'm actually not as mad about that as I could be, because perhaps being in the middle is a good olive branch for people who might think that the one is too difficult, the one's too easy. Let's just kind of have a nice cut, simpler, but still challenging game. And you know what? No, I don't like it. That's why are there so many? No, stop this! Stop it! Just.
If anything, going from Black Kingdom to the third scenario sounds like Radiant Dawn all over again. It starts off bullshit hard, and then towards the end you feel like a god.
Well, yeah, I mean Radiant Dawn's got a lot of issues other than the Dawn Brigade. I mean, there's just some really stale. It just doesn't feel quite right. But this. I was fine with the whole Black Kingdom and White Kingdom kind of being differently, because there is this new guard, old guard vibe when it comes to Fire Emblem, and we'll get into that discussion later because it's going to be kind of about that and some other things. But I don't know how to phrase this other than I don't need a bajillion different perspectives of the same fucking events. There. Dropping F-bombs. Done.
I think I'm more of a Fire Emblem junkie. I am seeing this as like this could be like the biggest Fire Emblem experience ever, but as we'll get into soon, that doesn't, because something's bigger and longer, doesn't necessarily make it better. So I have high hopes for it, that it's going to be better than Awakening, definitely. The Black Kingdom version does really interest me, because not only because it's harder, it's just the situation it's in. Obviously, the rule of the Black Kingdom is a nasty son of a bitch. Honestly, you just look at him and just like, there's a Fire Emblem villain right there. Like a proper one from way back in the day. And the fact that this is going to be like the surrogate father to the main character, I don't see him having a nice father-son relationship ever. So, But I'm hearing stuff like you'll have to quell rebellions and all that, and just the more I'm hearing of the Black Kingdom version, like, yeah, this sounds amazing. this sounds really good. So,
sounds like you're on the bad guy side for once, and you just kind of like, yeah, shut up, stop it.
Well, I think you might be like the only noble person there, and you're trying to, I wouldn't say right the wrongs, but sort of keep a kingdom in check. So it doesn't go blah, all over the place. But I'm looking forward to playing both versions and seeing the reaction to how people of that kingdom treat you and how your siblings of the other kingdom view you now as an enemy, and see what happens. So that's really awesome. Now, like I said, with the Fury of the Third scenario, is it going to be a continuation of 1 and 2 of the both versions, or is it going to be like the peacekeeping sort of storyline where you have to fight both and you have to sort of like, quote unquote, teach everyone a life lesson that war is wrong? You know?
Yeah, war is wrong by spreading my justice with my flaming sword.
Who knows? But apparently, as the time of this recording, it's not too long away for the Japanese release. It's like
a month and some change, right? It comes out in June, mid-June. Yes.
But Nintendo is spanking a lot of money on this. They just released news of the new 3DS face plates, and it's like the top one is the White Kingdom and the bottom one is the White Kingdom. It's very, very nice. It's based off the cover art. Looks really cool. So they are banking a lot of money on this release, and very much looking forward to it. I cannot wait until it comes out. They said probably next year until it gets translated, and they're still humming and hurrying whether just to release both games on the one cart.
Yeah, they'd probably be better to do that. I know that they could totally do that with at least Japanese consumers at this point in time, or at least consumers of the Japanese games. They could probably get away with it. I don't know if they'd be able to get away with that so much in the West.
Well, it is Pokemon, but that's Pokemon.
Well, yeah, that is true. That's I mean, it kind of has that history of that. Fire Emblem does not have that history, so they would kind of be barking up the wrong tree, I think.
Yeah, I know a lot of people kind of miffed at that news, but it's like more Fire Emblem at once. Yeah,
well,
that's the only
good
fear I
Fire
have.
Emblem, Greg. Good Fire.
Yeah, that's my only fear is they say, oh, you're only up to chapter 5, then you choose the side, and I'm like, well, how many chapters is there in total? That's what I want to know, because if it's like, oh yeah, it's chapter 5, and then it's only up to chapter 20, I would be so pissed.
Well,
like,
I mean,
frothing in the mouth.
Is that Sacred Stones? Sacred Stones is a few, but it's also got the Tower of Olney and the Lagdo ruins.
Yeah,
and
you
the Erica Ephraim route, but
yeah,
there's only one fucking side story in that one, and that or side chapter.
But
Sacred Stones.
But yeah, Fire Emblem is shaping up to be looking like a really good Fire Emblem game, so looking forward to it when it comes out. Alrighty, just a very small piece I wanted to get into very quickly with Taylor is Xenoblade Chronicles X was originally going to have a fixed main character, and I'm going to be bluntly honest, I wanted it to be. I'm sorry to anyone that likes making their own character, but when you have a narrative written by Tatsuya Takahashi, it kind of pays to have fixed characters,
right?
Because of just the grand scheme of his stories. Where I don't know how to feel about this. I'm not ragging on it, but since it's Tatsuya Takahashi, we're in for a really good ride. But how is a make your own character going to fit into the grand scheme of things? Because if you've got a silent protagonist that's a make your own character, that pretty much means all the characters around you have to be more memorable.
And he could totally do it. It's just, I mean, the whole silent protagonist thing. That's just it's the whole. Like in the literary device of being a Gary Stu or a Mary Sue kind of thing, and you're just like, this is it feels really lazy. I don't understand that it gives the player the chance to be more immersed in it and stuff. I can understand if you really hate a character, but I mean, there's some characters that I really hate, but I still like to play it because I'm kind of curious to see how that character develops. Or or like reading a story, there's characters that I'm just like, wow, ew. You want to kind of like strangle the pages to hopefully kind of strangle the character kind of thing. But it's all because of the I novels. I blame I novels. Thank you, Meiji period Japanese writing.
I think it stems from for me that I like Shulk as a main character, and I was looking forward to seeing like the next main character of a Xenoblade or a Xeno game, and the fact it's going to be you, it's like, yeah.
Yeah. You go from for all the Xeno games and stuff, you go from Faye to what's Shion and Shulk to now you. That's
something. Yes, and you are the one who gets to kill God.
Sweet. Yes.
No, I'm looking forward to hopefully that it's not going to go that route. That'd be cool if he can do something different for a change. We'll see.
We'll see. God slaying getting a little boring for you, Greg.
I think it's not so much getting boring. It's just nice change of pace wouldn't hurt.
Right. So,
but Greg, that's the whole point of the Xeno series. It's like, is it? I guess so.
Sorta.
There's so much more to it than that. If that's the other thing you're focused on, yeah. I have no more to say, but yeah, I just thought it was an interesting little piece of news that, Xenoblade Chronicles X is a mixed bag of worms right now. I'm looking forward to it on like a game, I'd say gameplay and visual aspect like that, and exploring essence that was in Xenoblade Chronicles is there in X, which it was a good chunk of why I loved that game. Mm-hmm. So for that reason alone, I'm really looking forward to X.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even have a Wii U at this point. I'd like to get one, but I mean, not in the cards right now, unfortunately. So I can only just kind of stare and look from afar and be like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. So, but I have a couple other things here. You had already mentioned the East one. I know this is kind of silly to say this because nobody ever plays the PSP other than like 8 people, but yeah, definitely go for the Steam one for E6 because it's it's the PC. It's just the like an enhanced PC port, right? Is it like an HD version of it or something, or is it just like
you can tweak it and mess around with it and it'll come out better and looking better. I actually, for nostalgic purposes, I keep it in the original aspect ratio instead of widescreen. I just like it like that, but you can tweak it to however you want to play it. But it runs flawlessly on my I would say as of 2015 it is outdated laptop, but runs perfectly. So it's fantastic.
There you go. The one other actually I have a couple other things here. One other thing I did see was that the Far Cry team that had put out Far Cry 4 it's doing Nepal donations. So if you donate to the Red Cross through like a certain website, I have the website, and they're matching up to like the first 200,000, 100,000. I should probably look it up, but they're matching donations for that sort of thing because they had spent time doing Far Cry 4 there, I guess.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's right.
I thought that was pretty nice of them, and for them to have been impacted and impressed by being in that area and then kind of trying to help in some sort of way, financially and whatnot. So, So, if you can help the cause, if not, then that's all right. Do what you can.
What I like about the gaming community is a lot of people like to paint them in a real dark corner, but I've noticed that the gaming community is responsible for the most charity work than most people I know. They raise a lot of money with some of their live streams, and I've always wanted to do it with the E-series. I've always wanted to find a charity of my own choice and do a speed run of one of the East games. See how much donations I can get. I reckon that'd be really cool. But it's just whether it be like Child's Play, which is the organization run by the guys who do Penny Arcade, we do a lot of charity work, and I think it shows some generous side to most gamers. I'm not gonna say all gamers, most gamers.
Right. I mean, yeah. Of course, there are other people, that may not play games and whatnot, that are generous in one way or another, and it seems like maybe it's just because a lot of different people play games, but it does seem like it's very easy to kind of get wrapped up into a cause to help something. Generally, I mean, there are things that we're not going to get into, but I mean, there are definitely things that people try to rally for that some people might kind of throw a hairy look at and like, so. But good on the Far Cry team there for Far Cry 4 to help with the Nepal donations bit there. So, on the lighter side of things is that this just came up like today. And we briefly mentioned we kind of briefly talked about it right before we started recording, is that this group, or I guess I should say company, Playtonic Games, their first game, it's a new studio by many of the veterans of Rare. They put up a Kickstarter, and some people really hate Kickstarter. They have some really stupid things on Kickstarter, aka Potato Salad Dude. Thanks, Broham. That's really important. But they put up a Kickstarter for Yooka-Laylee, and yeah, you like Banjo-Kazooie, you want more Banjo-Kazooie, then you probably have already donated to this Yooka-Laylee game, because it's pretty much a lizard bat form of Banjo-Kazooie.
It's funny going into this community. I encountered a lot of people that I never thought would like Banjo-Kazooie, love Banjo and Kazooie. Like, people who are like hardcore Japanese RPG fans to like first-person shooter fans. Everyone loves Banjo and Kazooie. I've never had the opportunity to play any of the games in my life, and so I have no desire.
Or did they?
No desire. I just never had the situation where I've wanted to get a Nintendo 64 ever again, and I've only seen it out in the wild, I think, once or twice in my life. So I probably would have to go search on it on eBay, and I know for a fact that'd probably be a game that they would jack up the price. So,
well, I'm going to be a bit of a monster here. I have never played Banjo-Kazooie, and I have never had the desire to play this game. I don't know why. Even as a kid, when I first saw it, I thought is it Banjo, the bear? Right?
Yeah.
I personally, not today, because it's just petty to think of it today, but when I first saw it, when I was younger, I was just like, this looks stupid. Today, I'm just kind of like, oh, if people really like it, that's cool. And to see the, like, mass fervor for this sort of thing, I don't know if they've hit it quite yet, but they're inching pretty close to like £1 million for this sort of thing. It's bonkers. But I think it's really cool that even though Kickstarter has these issues of people really kind of flaking out or doing Kickstarters for the most asinine comical things, you do have things or times where people put together Kickstarters for games and stuff that actually are like, this is what we want. If Konami put out a Kickstarter for Suikoden, and Greg would donate like his right arm or something.
It's funny you mention that, because that's the thing about Kickstarter. It can cater to someone from a certain generation. If you are a certain gamer from a certain generation, you almost have a knee-jerk reaction to whenever a game is catered for you. Like when that Cosmic Star Heroine was announced and finding out what games it was based off, that was the first time I ever donated to Kickstarter, because I was like, okay, this is based on all my favorite games I grew up with. And another game that I wanted to, but I missed the Kickstarting period, is Americana Dawn, because that game screams Suikoden, like, in terms of how it looks and how it's supposed to portray and feel. And I'm like, there'll be those projects where you're just like, oh my god, I want to see this succeed. And then, like Taylor said, there's going to be so many projects on there. It's like, why the hell did this even become a thing?
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, I mean, what's the Mighty Number 9? That exploded. That was kind of another big one there.
And I'm the only person on the community that's outside the fence, because as someone who played, I would say, who was just on the tip of being Mega Man X, I am actually going to be pretty modest, and I say to this that I think the series is fun, but if you get a doctor or professor in here to take my stress levels, they go off the chart when I play a Mega Man game. I can easily say Mega Man is Greg's #1 series that makes him rage the most. Like, I was frothing at the mouth when I was fighting Sigma the other day. I have the Hadouken, the one thing that's supposed to kill the final boss in one hit. I can't even get it off. You can't even.
Well, you have to be full health, don't you?
Yeah. And I am at full health because I got some sub tanks.
Right.
I still can't get Hadouken off, and I'm just like, and it's like, fuck this. So it's bittersweet. This is the same for Donkey Kong Country as well. Like, I love Donkey Kong Country, but there's times that I'm not one of those gamers that likes to throw controllers down that much, but that is a game that I threw my controller down tons of times, and I can safely say that I lump Mega Man up there. So I'm looking at Mighty Number 9, it's like, this is a heart attack waiting to happen for me.
A little too long in the tooth to be able to really enjoy it, because you're gonna just kind of. Oh man! Well, and that was the thing. People were kind of flipping out about that because they had set the release date initially for spring of this year. People were kind of worried about it. Well, they announced that the release date's in September. And I don't know how many people are kind of upset about that. I know some people were kind of like, well, why did you need the Kickstarter if you had to go to a publisher still or something? But
creative freedom, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, that's just a whole, I do know that they're releasing a physical release as well that's $10 more. I think the game's going to be $20 for the digital and then $30 for the physical copy, but the physical copy will actually have like all the DLC and stuff. So I thought, okay, that's cool. I like that kind of idea for that instead of, that to me is a bit more of a smart marketing idea to have, here's the digital version of it, but you need to buy the DLC for it to get it up to this price.
Yeah. That is actually good. Now, you know more than this I do, because it just happened today, and I literally went into this podcast about 15 minutes after I woke up. So, I don't know, but I want to ask, what system is it aiming for, or systems?
I think it's on a bunch of different ones. To be honest, I was one of those that was like, oh, this is cool, but I did not donate because I did not have any way of donating. And anybody who wants to throw shade at me for that, I'm right here. But I do plan on getting it. I believe there's going to be a Vita release. There's like the PC release. I think it's going to be on Steam. It's going to be on a bunch of different things. And if it's going to... I say the Vita one in hope. Because I'm hoping it's on Vita. Because the Vita is nice. And I like the Vita. And I like more games for the Vita.
Still a faithful Vita supporter. Right. In this day and age, which I really hope they turn that around. Just not to go off kilter, but I hope they kind of turn it around for the Vita this year. As someone who's a Falcom supporter, I'm always got hope. That's the reason I bought my Vita in the first place. Thankfully, we are going to get another exclusive Vita game, but we'll see how that pans out. But going back to this, the one thing that kind of interests me with Banjo-Kazooie, apparently it is open world like Mario 64.
Right.
I think that aspect always interests me. But I think, like you, I looked at the bear and the bird, and I was like, it kind of got released at a time where I was knee-deep into really, I wouldn't say dark, but heavy sort of Japanese RPGs. And that realm of playing platforming games have kind of whittled down to nothing. I didn't get back into platform games until I played Jak and Daxter. So that was in that transition period where I did not even touch platforming games. So that's probably the main reason why I didn't get into Banjo-Kazooie when it came out. That, and I only didn't really care. I only played the N64 for the Zelda games and nothing else. So yeah. But it's cool to see that this happens, and once again, Kickstarter caters to fans of a certain series and brings their life back into meaning.
That's the way to put it.
I know. I'm exaggerating there.
So, but yeah, I think let's shift gears here, and so I think that's it. That's enough of the news stuff that I've got. So.
I'll do very quickly, because there's 2 more pieces. I actually have 3 more, but I'm going to nail that down to 2.
Alright.
Okay, just to sort of end the news off, I'm just going to talk about 2 Square Enix pieces of all things. First up is the feedback that the developers got from Final Fantasy 15 episode Disque. And it was interesting to see the figures of what people liked and disliked. And for the most part, it was very favorable. Most people, none of the aspects of the game went below 50%, which is good. It stayed around the 70, 80%, and there was a lot of 90, so a lot of people were happy with the game. The thing that was the definitive no-no everyone hated was the lock-on system was atrocious. And that was pretty much the consensus. So, and then what was really cool is Hajime Tabata, who's the director of the game, he sat down, played the game, and he said, I agree with you guys. Which is awesome. So, but it's kind of boggles my mind that you're in development for years and years and years, and you don't see that the lock-on system was not bad. He must have saw it in a different mindset. And then after reading comments, he probably saw what people saw in it, and now he's on his merry way to changing it, which is awesome.
Well, they basically had it like initially as a certain idea, and then they had it set, and then they might have done a bunch of other stuff, and then never really thought much else about it, and they thought, okay, this is fine, and then once it does get released, like, Jesus, this is terrible. It's all, as I already gathered, there was no sort of major sort of faults with the game design, just with the tweaking of it. Like, the lock-on. They wanted the combat to be a bit more sort of, free-flowing, which I don't know if that's going to be a thing, but a lot of people had a hard time trying to hit enemies, so I think they're going to go back and tweak that up a bit, so you'll probably stand a little bit more of a chance, but while keeping the difficulty. So those were the only 2 main concerns. I mean, there's a list of what, but I'm not going to get into it. Okay. So it was interesting to see that was the main issue, because I thought there would be a lot of things. The thing that made me laugh is they had a character poll, and of the 3 main characters, the first 3 characters were high, but the goofy 4th main character named Prompto, he apparently was really low. Well, not really low, but he was far lower than the other 3 characters, which is like... Ouch.
But at the same thing, it's like you gotta have that one character that's sort of... I'm not saying you should have a RPG with all people annoy the fuck out of you, Final Fantasy 10-2. But at least if you have one sort of goofball, and Prompto didn't come off as annoying. He was like, he's a little bit of a goof, but he wasn't embarrassing, but apparently a lot of people didn't like him that much. But I think they're going to eat their words when they're going to have the full version, because I like his backstory, how in the Retunia he's the only one that's not of noble birth, and he basically got into the gang because he met Noctis one day. And I thought if they kind of focus on that backstory, then you'll be surprised probably how attached you'll probably get to him. So I think it's too early days to sort of claim that judgment, especially in the demo where they only gave you a little bit of the characters, but nothing substantial to really get an idea of what they're going to do. Yeah. So for them to go, we don't like this character, it's like, you barely know the guy.
Well, that a lot of people just kind of get that either by looks or, maybe just even the sound of the voice sometimes to just kind of do it. The intonations of it, I mean...
If you want to go by voice, listen to Noctis. He doesn't sound like someone of his age. I don't know what his age is. He sounds like he's 40, but
He's infinite. Well, I've not played the demo. I have, like, my Caro meter for 15 is like broken. It's on empty.
Well, as someone who spent the last 5 years just virtual towards 13, I can now finally relax and let my gut down because I actually enjoyed the demo a lot. So I can finally I can get hyped for another Final Fantasy game after so goddamn long. So, just thought that was really cool that Square Enix, of all people, decided to take feedback to heart and is actually going about it to make a really good product. So, good for them. Now, for the last piece of news that really surprised me. Now, this is a game that's been in development for ages, but I didn't know what it's going to look like. Now, this is an iPhone game, and I wouldn't usually give 2 cares for it, but it's a series that I've kind of been interested in for the last decade and a half, and I've actually never beaten a game of the series, but I've given it my best shot every time, and I've enjoyed what they do for the series. And the game I'm talking about is Imperial Saga.
Imperial Saga.
And this is the... Yeah. And today, a couple of days ago, they had a trailer showing off the game for the first time, because everyone's like, what's it going to look like? It really shocked me to know that it kind of looks like Romancing Saga 3. It's catering to that old school Square Enix fans, like, the people that would buy, like, Final Fantasy IV the after years and who'd buy Final Fantasy Dimensions. Mm-hmm. It's catering to that crowd, and I was really shocked because I didn't think they were going to do that. So, yeah, you've got this game, Imperial Saga, that looks like a Romancing Saga game. There's a heavy emphasis on party formations. Apparently, if you change your formation in battle, it gives you an advantage against a certain enemy formation, which that screams Saga to me, in a way. But what I really like is most of the gang's back, the original artist, the original producer, and I was dying to tell Taylor this. Kenji Ito. He's there.
Oh, that right there is enough to make it like Romancing Saga. Yeah.
So even if you don't play the game, you've got another soundtrack to buy. Listen to. I'm really looking forward to it. But I was really blown away to see that it kind of looked like a HD sort of Romancing Saga 3. Huh. And I know that's going to get a lot of people double guessing. Like, they probably weren't interested before, but now they'll be like,
Like, so, I've not played I've dabbled in some of the later ones, but 1, 2, and 3, those are just some weird games, and it takes some... if you like, for example, with the first one, if you can't sit there and grind, you can't. You done goofed if you do that, because the enemies level up with you, and then you get to a point where it's just really stupid hard, and you've just kind of wasted everything. It's
yeah,
man, but some fantastic, amazing music, but they're some prickly games.
And I'm actually a big fan of the artist. I think the artwork is absolutely stunning. Just beautiful. And I really like the art they're doing for... The main character looks like he's some sort of, I don't know, Prince King with, like, full plate. Looks really cool. I'm looking forward to learning more about this. And Saga's been a series that I wouldn't say that I get raged at, but I've never been a game. Like, the closest I've come to is the original Saga game on the Game Boy. I am very close to beating that. But one of the games that I love from that series is Saga Frontier 2. That is one of my favorite PS1 games. Never finished it because the 4th generation is... I think I got to the first battle in the 4th generation and died within seconds. And I was like, oh, I'm guessing this is going to be a part of the story. Nope, game over. And I was like, okay. I can't go back and grind because this is a completely new generation.
Way to ruin the generation of warriors there, Greg.
So, one day I'm looking forward to seeing if I can get really deep into the Saga series, but I'm looking at this, it's really cool that they're getting back into it. Someone said that it reminded them of Final Fantasy Record Keeper. I can't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, per se. So, yeah, from what I've seen of the trailer, it looks pretty damn cool. So,
cool.
That's it for me. And yes, more Kenji Ito is always a good thing.
Sweet. Well, then we should take this to the discussion part as the news part wraps up there. Shouldn't we, there, Mr. Greg?
Alrighty, time to burn some emblems again.
Time to burn some bridges, I think. Well, we kind of wanted to think of different discussions here. Greg likes Fire Emblem. I like Fire Emblem. There was some Fire Emblem news, and thought this would be a good time to talk about Awakening for the 3DS. Because with Awakening, you now have If and I guess what's now being called Sharp FE, whatever the hell. What's the stupid name for this other Fire Emblem game?
It's Sharp FE Illusionary Revelations, and that's why I don't even call it Sharp FE. I just call it Illusionary Revelations because it feels more like a Persona game than a Fire Emblem game. So,
so we went kind of poke and prod Awakening here because this is an interesting game in that I hate this game. And I love the Fire Emblem series, but I hate this game. But I'm kind of curious and kind of want to talk a little bit because there are a lot of people that like this enough that it saved the series. So now I've kind of got to be a little bit more on a better behavior after saying that I hate it, I guess. But I've tried to tackle in my head why this game is liked so much. And I think because I'm so ingrained with the other Fire Emblem games, it's hard for me to kind of separate those two and be like, oh, okay. But then there's this part of me that's like, oh, well, I like Final Fantasy Tactics, and it's kind of got some of that vibe in there, but it doesn't, and... Greg, why do you think this game is liked?
They give the player a lot more options. Like the whole, you can turn off permadeath, which is kind of, as someone who's kind of more relaxed, hippie sort of gamer, where it's like, peace, man, I just want to calm. I'm not really challenged much these days, but Fire Emblem's one of those series where I like to be challenged, so I could never, ever think about turning permadeath off. But the fact, that was actually, speaking to a lot of people before Awakening, that was actually a major reason why they wouldn't play Fire Emblem, and I was shocked. It's like, no, I can't handle when one of my characters dies, and I have to do the battle over again, and I just lose interest. Whereas me, I would do the battle all over again because I'm determined to beat the game because I love it so much.
Well, we're stubborn. That's what. We're stubborn.
And I'm not stubborn for many games nowadays, so that says a lot. But having that, it really garnered more of an audience. The fact that it wasn't sort of the linear path, which I don't mind for some games. I think Fire Emblem is one of those games that does it the best. But the fact that you have the world map system, very much like Sacred Stones and Gaiden, I believe.
Gaiden did do that.
Yeah. Sorry?
As affirming. Yeah, Gaiden does do that. But that's the thing. That those games do that. Sacred Stones is like the easiest Fire Emblem game in the damn series. Gaiden, while it's actually pretty cool, the open world map stuff is the reason why I don't like it, especially for Fire Emblem, is that it just feels like you're taking too long. This is the equivalent of grinding, and people
pretty much
hate grinding. But for whatever reason, traversable maps are like, oh yeah, that's cool, totally. I don't. Damn it.
I don't mind grinding, and it sort of gives me more of a chance to play the awesome battles. Because one of the reasons I like Fire Emblem is the strategy RPG gameplay. Mm-hmm. It's one of my. It's not on my top 10 list for nothing.
I mean, with the other games in the series, it's linear. You're stuck going from chapter to chapter. What makes it, I don't want to say unique, but what makes it replayable is that you have these slew of characters. Yeah, some characters are super duper awesome, and you wouldn't think twice about putting them on your A team, but sometimes if you want to kind of give yourself a challenge or pair up different characters in the later parts of the series, then you can kind of go with some of these suckier characters and put the good ones on bench. I mean, that to me is a lot more, you're kind of tying your hand behind your back, but it's the same thing with people arguing that with traversable maps, all you can do, you can grind and then make the chapter episodes easier. tying an arm behind my back by limiting my options for doing things. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the type of game you are, because before, say, like, stuff like Awakening, most of the Fire Emblem games, you'd have to, like, go into the arena to have a gamble, and that was kind of like your only way to sort of, like, jump up a couple levels, but you have to be careful. Or you can be an idiot like me, who put Nabral in there for 90 minutes only for him to get slain, and 90 minutes
Oh my god.
Gone. But I succeeded one time, and I kind of made the game super easy, because you just got to anything and crit. So, and of course, the Radiant series had its bonus EXP that you would give after the battle. You distribute, which I thought was really cool. This kind of shows my short-term memory. Did they do that in Awakening? I can't remember.
I don't remember that. That doesn't sound right. But that could just be my hate goggles clouding my vision.
Because, I got it when it first came out in English. This has been a couple of years ago, which, that's kind of shocking within itself. Because it kind of felt like yesterday, but then I don't really remember it because it's been a couple of years ago. But going back, what you reckon why it sold well? Well, aside from the fact that it got advertised up the yin-yang in Japan, but usually they do for most Fire Emblem games, so I don't see anything new. The 3DS was one of the mainstay consoles in Japan. That kind of helped as well, that it was a big release for the most popular system in Japan. That was another thing. You can't put the artwork, because that's actually one of the reasons I don't like about the game.
You don't like horse hooves?
Yeah, I'll say this now. As someone who has been a big fan of, like, the art design for most of the Fire Emblem games, from, let's say, Genealogy of the Holy War to Radiant Dawn, I think the character designs look fantastic. And then when I saw the character designs for Awakening the first time, I was shaking my head. I was like, not digging this as well. I mean, some characters look better, and I was like, I seem to be one of those weird people that likes... What he's referred to now as Robin, the strategist, I actually like his default design. I know, it just looks cool, that sort of cavalry is like big cloak or whatever. It looks cool. My problem, I think, is to say Chrom is probably the most generic looking Fire Emblem lord ever. Like, it looks like he's a mashup of different lords before him, and he visually has zero sort of, I don't know.
Yeah, there's not a lot of appeal to him, and I think that's... I don't know if they're trying to mash up a bunch of different things, but that is actually something that I really disliked about this game, is that you have... And people have argued this bit about, this could have been alleged, I have not read anything about it being for certain being the last one, but I believe there's different pieces on it, but this could have been the last Fire Emblem game. In turn, it was, I guess, a good idea for them to take all the other Fire Emblem games and mash them together into this one, with a bunch of different things that they have. The main villains are really watered down versions of earlier main villains. I mean, the whole there's going to be spoilers, so if you don't want to hear spoilers for this and you haven't beaten yet,
yeah,
sorry, but spoilers. There you have your children from the first generation, time warp, time loop, time slip, time travel, time. In other words, they come back in time to help their parents. This is stupid. This is the dumbest thing. This hurt my brain, because it is such a piss poor way to tell a story, I guess, especially with this. I mean, I actually would not have been too angered if it was just Lucina.
Yeah.
Like, I'd been like, okay, all right, it's, it was a dire, and it just kind of happened, and it was like, oh shit, But then when you pair up other people together and they just have kids and they're just like, hey, I'm here, help! Ah! I wanted to just cry.
Now, just to reiterate, not that we're going to bash every aspect of this game, because I'm also going to defend some.
Right. There are things I like about it.
I'm going to say this now. Lucina kind of saved a lot of the game for me. It's like whenever I want to associate a Lord character with a Fire Emblem game, I basically say Chrom is very much playing Jane. His daughter, however, her to me is the definitive Lord character for the Awakening saga. So that's kind of what I associate Awakening with. I really like Lucina. So I'm actually going to sort of slightly disagree with Taylor. I actually like the whole sort of second generation coming to help. The reason I didn't like it is because the plot was so piss poor. It was a great idea that was wasted. Sorry. And Taylor said something that really sort of, it burns my soul, is one of the reasons I like Fire Emblem is the great villains. And there were none.
Right.
There were none in Awakening. And that, what's he's got, the guy in the red armor, I've completely forgotten his name, starts with W. They built him
like
up to...
Walden?
Yes.
Yeah.
They built him up to be like, this is the guy you need to defeat. And he had fuck all build up. Next to nothing. How am I supposed
surprise,
to...
I'm an asshole, I'm taking care of things.
Yeah, how am I supposed to sort of get excited and pumped up to fight this guy if he's had next to no backstory? And I mean, look at Lynn's saga from Rekken no Ken. What's his name? Nearly got his name on the tip of my tongue. Something Gren or some whatever. But he had backstory before you fought him in the final battle of that chapter. He had way more backstory than this guy from Awakening. You know?
It's well, like that. But there's some people who bring up instances of there's the one general that you have to fight who is reluctant to do so, but he's doing it out of sense of duty in Awakening. I honestly can't remember his name. I almost want to say Lawrence, but that's totally not right. But I want to say it was in the desert, or it's right after the suicide jump, kind of thing. But it's around that time, and people want to bring that up as an amazing thing. That's been a staple of Fire Emblem. I mean, certain villains are just kind of evil assholes, but there are a lot of different Genealogy of a Holy War. You want to hate Alvis, but he's one of the most, I want to say, he's probably one of the more tragic kind of grouped in the villain side of things. He's one of the more tragic characters in the series. And I mean, you have Nurgle.
Yeah, that's pretty much, that is pronunciation.
I mean, his story, once you get the full gist of it, it's pretty tragic as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just this happened to be in this Awakening game. This is a staple, and it's those kind of things. There's no maps. The maps are boring. Let's just route everything. Route. And while routing everything is kind of, I mean, you do that majority of the time in Fire Emblem games, seize the throne or whatever. There's something missing about these maps that aren't conducive to strategy, I felt. I mean, the lunatic ones, it's just basically just kind of, I hope you have a rabbit foot shoved up your ass character, because you ain't doing much else. That's all lunatic plus, lunatic is and everything. But it's I don't know. There's no fog of war. I mean, I know people don't. I know this is just a random complaint, but I know people are on the fence about that sort of thing. But fog of war is I love fog of war chapters, and there's ways to remedy the fog of war issues, but there's none of that in there. There's no escape chapters. Escape chapters, you have Thrakia. Let's punch you in the face repeatedly because we're an asshole game, and you start to kind of like it, and and then you get these cool escape chapters. There's no escape chapters in this.
It's funny. It's funny how you said that Sacred Stone is the easiest Fire Emblem game. I actually think Awakening is, because it gives you so much to work with. The grinding. The feature I thought was really cool. It kind of made the game a little easier. Is the grouping system? I keep forgetting the specific name.
The pair up.
The pair up system. Yeah,
Right.
that made Awakening a whole lot easier.
It did, but the reason why I said Sacred Stones is because it doesn't have lunatic mode, and I'm going to kind of couple that in there and say, well, you got lunatic mode. At least you can make it hard on yourself, but it's not like strategic. It's just kind of random luck numbers. So, but yeah, the pair up system is something I actually do like. I thought that was pretty cool.
I'm looking forward to seeing it in a more challenging setting with If. That'd be cool.
Mm. Well, I was going to say, did you like the idea of it at least, or?
Yeah, I did really like the idea. But the thing is I know that you weren't a big fan of the maps, and I can understand that because it's very microscopic compared to, say, something like Genealogy of the Holy War or most other Fire Emblem games.
Yeah.
So I will agree the scope of the maps are not that great, but I actually had fun playing the game in that regard. Saying people that grind, I just play it because I had fun playing the game. And I was amazed at the game running 60 frames per second on a handheld, because we're getting into this age of the 3DS and the Vita where they are powerful enough to run games in 60 frames. And to see a Fire Emblem game, aside from Radiant Dawn, run that fast, it was like, oh my god. And Path of Radiance, of course. But it looked amazing on the 3DS. And like I said, I don't like the artwork and some of the character models, but I did like how the battles looked on the screen, and I had fun. Even though it's sort of like the icon of the characters looked a bit more sort of compacted was the word, compared to like other icons in the rest of the series. But Awakening's a game I had fun with. This is probably one of the definitive reasons I actually don't like the game as much as other games. The whole thing about Fire Emblem is one of the more mature sort of strategy RPGs where you are man versus man. You're fighting for different ideologies, whether you're wanting saving a town from a group of bandits or a rampaging sort of kingdom that's hell-bent on seizing control of everything in the world, or whatever power so to be. It kind of hits home with, like when you fight the bosses in each of the stages and they have like their line of dialogue and how they feel when they pass and everything. This doesn't come across well when they're fucking undead with the Risen.
Yeah, oh god, the shadow zombies.
That is my biggest caveat of Fire Emblem Awakening. Oh my goodness.
That's a painful. I forgot that's like a blank spot. I totally had forgotten about that. That's another reason to rage against it. And I mean, you make a good point with that. I mean, you're just taking out tons of. I mean, yeah, I understand in the other games, yeah, they're just kind of foot soldiers, and a lot of times they're just kind of experience points. they're just arrow fodder if you use archers, but a lot of people don't. Or they're just punching bags for your characters. But there is something to be said about they are fighting for this ideology. I mean, Path of Radiance. You have the Mad King Ashnard, who's all about trying to get rid of class. Trying to get rid of the idea that your that birth, where you're born and stuff is what's most important, and going. Yeah, it kind of goes in the whole Darwinistic kind of survival of the strongest, but it's like the whole. He in his head, and it's kind of like, okay, he's kind of crazy, but he's kind of making a point. Maybe not the way you want him to do it, but he's making a point that just because somebody's born low, they're now in servitude. No, if they're born low but they are strong, they should rise to the top, kind of thing, and that sort of thing. But what do you get in fucking Awakening? You get shadow zombies.
Yeah, no, just to praise Radiant. I love the Radiant series so much because we're talking about how lame the villains are in Awakening. Oh my god, there are so many villains in the Radiant series that really get under your skin. If it's not Ashnard, it's the nobles of the Begnion Empire. They're despicable. And oh my god, I think the other reason I was angry at that because I don't think you get the slight spoilers. I don't think you get the chance to deal out much needed justice to them. but the fact that they got me that worked up shows you the sign of good writing and good villains. Like that guy who wanted to hunt the heron, he's fucking despicable. Oh man, like but it just goes to show how in little time go from Radiant Dawn to Awakening. You know,
well, yeah, it makes you wonder what happened to, and I think it is because they tried to pull all these different ideas from the other ones. You have the generational thing from Genealogy of Holy, where you've got Alm and Marth's homelands being used as the settings for Awakening, and it doesn't help that they've they completely changed the names of these things, but it's.
I think it goes back to the fact that this was going to be the final game, and they wanted to tie in everything. But at that point, I just have to say it's a terrible way to do it for the fans. If this was going to be the final game, oh shit!
Well, I tried to explain that. It's like, why would you want to have this as your last game? Why are you trumpeting all of this stuff about the series as your last game? And not trying to create a new identity or a new idea about itself, instead of just kind of, oh well, we're totally fuckzors, so let's just take everything and make something. I mean, it's cool that it was able to financially get enough money to do what future stuff, but blah.
Oh man, even talking about it, I'm firmly standing my ground. I had fun playing the game, but as far as the story is concerned, I mean, I'd have to go back and check some of the dialogue if there was even one moment, even in the campsite where you're having sort of like the character sort of events. Mm-hmm. I wanted to know if there was like one that was actually good, because a lot of them came off as annoying. I'll say this now. But compared to like other Fire Emblem games where you like, I liked a lot of the conversations in the Radiant series. A lot of them were good. They weren't all goofy. A lot of them actually had to add to the ongoing sort of events around the world and between the characters. Like Ike and Soren, by the way, they're not gay. Screw you, creepy Fire Emblem fans.
Well, I think Awakening kind of put that to bed, though, didn't it? With the DLC. So
but yeah, their conversations was really cool. Like with basically the Grail mercenaries, any of the members of the Grail mercenaries talk to each other. It was always an enjoyable experience. I'm guessing some of the conversations between Lucina and Dab were kind of interesting. But I will this will probably be the biggest thing that I will give credit for the game. Even though it wasn't used for like the best of stories, the amount of work that went into the different sort of combinations of characters, like pairing up this character with this character, and it would come out with this person's traits in different conversations.
Right.
That's ambitious. That is crazy. And I will applaud Nintendo for that. But just with better characters and better writing, that would be a home run.
I think that's probably why it ended it came out feeling as flat as it did, is that you have so much kind of, you're not rewriting, but I mean you're writing so much stuff for this one thing, and it's just kind of like, you're eventually going to have a dip in quality. I mean, you can't all be winners, kind of thing, and because it's not focused. And this is kind of the issue that I have with a lot of like the sandbox stuff, is that it's not focused, and it really detracts from a story point a lot of the times. It may, some of it may hit home for you. That's cool, but a lot of it just doesn't. It just kind of feels like that. That's why I don't like the choose your own adventure books and stuff, because it's just kind of, it's just not. It's not nearly as satisfying to me, at least. I mean, so it's a subjective thing, but it's not nearly as satisfying to me to read a choose your own adventure book as it would be for me to read a really well put, kind of very clever novel or short story or something where they have certain things about it or pretty good. But
And of course, that was one of the main reasons they wanted the replayability, because then you would pair different people up.
Right.
Whereas if they're going to go the different route, where they're going to have these set characters, however, the situations in the story where you have to make a different choice, because I don't think it's just going to be for that initial choice to choose the White Kingdom, Black Kingdom.
Right.
I think it's happening throughout the entirety of the game, and it'll probably lead to different battles, probably different characters seeing the character in a different way. And I would honestly be more inclined for that than what they did in Awakening, because I didn't go out of my way to go back and play Awakening to do different pair-ups. At least not yet.
Yeah, but you could do that in the other games. I mean, that was you only had a limit of 5.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
I mean, I don't know. It just there's just so much about that I think doesn't jive with what I've come to expect from the series. And music, I mean, I love the music in the series, but they did something really goofy with this one. And instead of how they have it, you have like the map theme, and then once you go initiate a battle, it goes into the battle theme, or the attack theme, or it goes into the defense theme, and you got a boss theme and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's all like the same theme, but then it's tweaked a lot of it, and it's just kind of it's not impactful. I mean, there are some really good songs in there. Don't Speak Your Name's a pretty good one. The Id Purpose is a really good one.
I really like Id Purpose.
I mean, there's some good tunes, but just compared to all the other games, I just don't. It's just like, for me, Liberation from Secret Moncho no Nazo, Secret of the Emblem. That one's the, that one, like, whew, or just a lot of the songs from that game, or just a lot of the songs in general. But
actually,
one,
very very quickly, one of my favorite pieces from Moncho no Nazo is Holy War. That is so good. I love that.
That's a really good one. That's another really good one. Just the like the recruit theme's really really good. A lot of music from that game. That one gets a little bit of a. I think it's because it just never made it on the DS remake to the West, but that game is that one's got some, for being what it is, that it's got some really intense chapters as opposed to Awakening.
Very very quickly, I didn't mention the Marth Saga games when I said what happened between Radiant and Awakening, because I didn't know that they got released, and someone wanted to point that and go, hey, what about the Marth DS games? It's like, I know they're there, but they're remakes of an already established storyline, so they just had to tweak it a little bit.
Right. Yeah, they added the BS Fire Emblem chapters. I think that's what. Yeah. I think that's what the initial 2 were.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And I will say this, like, playing Awakening, it's like, I think Marth's stories is better. And that's not a knock on Marth's stories, because they were written in a time where, they just got their feet wet with the series,
Right. The first one's really kind of generic in the sense of you're taking care of spooky Earth Dragon.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. Now, when it carries over, his second arc is awesome. I love the second arc, and it's like, even the first one. Like, the first one has a really, when he comes back home and takes back his castle, that's a pretty emotional bit. When I don't remember what they named him in the English one, but the guy that's sitting on the throne, his name's Moses. In the if I recall right, his name's Moses in the Japanese one, and he's just talking about how he, with his hands, he had killed his mother, and he gave his sister to Ganef and stuff, and you're just like, man, you're an ass. Like, and where do you get any of that in Awakening? You don't get this, fuck you guys. You should have been part of team Spooky Earth Dragon, or whatever. I don't know. It's gone soft, Greg.
Well, we'll see if can bring it back. I mean, I have high hopes, but after Awakening, you gotta put some sort of guard up. You know.
I not hesitant because I am going to get if. I'm not touching that SMT cross Fire Emblem Sharp FE whatever Illusionary Revelations or no, just no. I'm sorry, Atlas. You're like that distant cousin. That's kind of cool, but I don't really. I don't know what to think analogy. I don't know what to think of you at times. This time, I'm just like, no, that's too far.
Like, I'm interested in Illusionary Revelations as an Atlas game, not as a Fire Emblem game. So that's sort of my take on it. Yeah. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what ideas they can do with Fifth, and if it's just. I don't know, I don't want to say anything sort of like to get my hopes up, but from what I've seen so far, musically, I've liked the music I've heard so far. Visually, some of the artwork that was from Awakening still there, but it looks a lot better, more interesting sort of design character. Like, I really like that cutscene with the dancer that they're showing in the trailer. That's pretty beautiful. I really like that. But I do like the motif, the whole... Hoshino, the White Kingdom's like a samurai clan, and Nor, the Black Kingdom's kind of like, say, Germanic, sort of Roman, European kingdom, basically. So, but yeah, I'm really excited for it, and just by face value, it looks like it's going to be a better game than Awakening, but we'll see what the writing holds for that game.
Right. We'll see how that kind of turns out. And I guess... is there anything else you'd like to add? Because there's just one other little bit that I'd like to chat about with it.
Is this going to be about DLC?
No, like that sort of thing. I bought a couple of them, and I was just like, okay, but it's pandering to the whole. You can get Marth, you can get Lee. Oh yeah,
it's fan service. That part of the. That's probably what kind of enticed some of the more hardcore fans. And I thought I was really hardcore, but I never downloaded any of them. I think I did it once, and that was near impossible for me to do.
Because, they're pretty tough. There's one that's
not impossible to beat, like impossible to download because Wi-Fi in Australia sucks. So I had a hard time back when it was released trying to download some of the other stuff. But I get what they're going for, and of course it adds some more challenge to anyone who's been in Awakening and some fan service for those who've been with the series, but yeah, it is what it is.
Right, yeah, I got a couple of them and I was just like, no, this is... I mean, that's kind of what started putting the emotion of just, I really don't... like how it's all kind of smashed together, and here's you can kind of have a generic Leaf character, or you have like Micaiah in Awakening, her like just defies my tastes of how they kind of portrayed her in Radiant Dawn to how they portray her in Awakening. I'm just kind of like, she's a dark priestess or something like that, and you're just like, what the... why? Anywho, that's another subjective thing. But the thing that I was actually thinking was this whole old guard versus new guard kind of thing when it comes to the Fire Emblem series and liking it, because as you said, and I've had plenty of other people tell me this as well, is that they hated that whole permadeath thing. They don't like it. They don't like having to start over chapters because they want to keep the characters, which I understand, but I think that's because that's the game programmed to try to teach you, hey, don't do this. This is bad. Stop it. Stop it.
And originally I would guess if I was Intelligent Systems, they wanted most people to make the choice, do you want to keep the character or not? Because I've seen a lot of people talk to who played Fire Emblem, they actually let some characters die because they think it impacts on the story a lot more because they've had fallen comrades.
Right.
And it sort of motivates them to try better and sort of have that more impact that this is war, which is kind of interesting. then you got people like me. It's like no man left behind, or woman.
Right. Yeah, I can totally see that. When I first play one, I'll just let whoever die, but then I'll go through it and just be like, no, nobody's dying this time. Don't stop it, kind of thing. But like, I had seen and kind of participated in a conversation about this, is that there's a lot of people that are a fan, and I'm going to couple you in this as well, that are the old guard. that we just like these older Fire Emblem games, and it's not to say, and it's not even like they're old ancient Fire Emblem games. It's right up to even Radiant Dawn, but there's just something about Awakening, other than we just it's something about it. Whatever it was, we've already kind of listed our reasons. It's just we don't like it, and we rag on it, and I try not to rag on it unless I bring up some sort of points, and the caveat is that it's subjective, a lot of it, or it's at least these are my reasonings for not liking it. Music, that's a subjective thing. That's poor story, character build. That one I think is more of an opinion, kind of. You can kind of be like boom boom boom, this is why I don't like this sort of thing, but a lot of the new guard kind of has built this sort of this group about themselves that it's like, oh man, these old fogies, they're trying to hate, and they're being blah 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 blah. But this is not just Fire Emblem Awakening. This happens a lot of the times. You get a new entry in a game series that these other people have loved what they had been doing, and then all of a sudden they do something that just doesn't quite register, and then these new people like it, and then you kind of have these arguments. The old people are like, well, you're not true fans if you don't like these other games, and the other people are blah blah blah, and it's just a mess.
Yeah, and we don't want to belittle anyone that likes Awakening. If you like Awakening, awesome, man. Yeah,
great. Thanks for keeping the series alive.
Yeah, awesome. But like what you like, and we won't burn your house down like the older hardcore fans do, which I think they need to get a grip.
Well, I mean, it's just have a conversation about it. Yeah, I'm being a bit boisterous about my hate towards a lot of the things in the game, but like kind of said before, there are certain things about it that I like. The pair-up system I thought was really cool, because it allowed you to not just have to carry or couple a unit, and now this unit's bogged down by this stupid fat jerk off who can't keep up with the rest of the team. No, you just kind of pair them up with another, and they just kind of go and whoop ass together. I like that. I thought that was cool, but people, when you're talking about this old government, stop. If you like the game, you like the game. Don't. I mean, if anything, if you've only played Awakening, or you like Awakening and haven't tried any of the other games, personally, I think you should try Sacred Stones. Yeah, I kind of say, it's the easiest one. That's the first one I tried, and I have a soft spot for it, but I think it's almost like the middle ground between a lot of the other Fire Emblem games, or pretty much how just the other Fire Emblem games are. Compared to Awakening. You got the traversable map. A lot of the characters are beefy characters. Not even just physically beefy, but I mean, a lot of the characters that you get in that game are just rock solid. And, you have these other little side things to do. So...
with me, I got introduced with Rekka Ken, which is just entitled Fire Emblem for the Game Boy Advance, and I just thought that game looked amazing, sounded amazing, the story was fantastic, and it just hit all the right notes with me. But I want to add something, and it's my growing concerns with most of the gaming industry, or at least in the RPG sector, as we're talking about how much we don't like the story of Awakening. It's mainly because the attention to detail and just the writing in the other games were more, I don't know, there was just something that hit all the right marks. It got your attention, the characters were interesting, but it's not just Fire Emblem Awakening. It's around that time, most sequels just fell flat. Because I remember that exact same year I got Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, and it's really obnoxious to like compare like a Fire Emblem to a Kingdom Hearts story. But when you compared like Dream Drop Distance to the rest of the Kingdom Hearts series, the story was very, I don't know, it would kind of felt rushed and it wasn't really like that interesting. And I basically wanted to like at least make a video or just talk about on the podcast about how good writers is the commodity that the gaming industry needs. Because it's kind of the one thing that I feel has taken a dip for most series. Not every series, most series. And
well, I think honestly, a majority of games have not really had good writing a lot of the times. A lot of times you kind of get enough to kind of get by, or maybe some kooky things here and there. You're kind of like, but a lot of the times I don't think it's been like good. And it's not to say it's been horrible, but I think with how there are certain games that kind of rise above the rest just because of either just everything kind of came together for it. For example, Chrono Trigger. I don't think the writing is the greatest, but it does the greatest job at setting the mood.
Yeah.
It's just, but I mean, if you take something like Trails in the Sky, that's like detail to detail. Here is some more detail, and and a lot of people don't like that. They don't like to have that, but so you're always trying to balance this act. But I maybe perhaps it was because the 3DS was floundering, so Nintendo's like, hurry the fuck up, guys, we need some fucking games, kind of thing.
We need a Fire Emblem game. We need a Mario game. We need a Zelda game. Let's just do it. Yeah.
Chip it, come on, kind of thing. I mean, that could have been a reason why it felt rushed, or why the writing might have felt a little. Unfortunately, people see a lot of games and they just think of games as just a thing to have fun on, which is fine. I mean, if that's what if you just play games to have fun, nothing wrong with that. For some other people, like myself, I like having some sort of story to them, and not all the time. I mean, it doesn't have to have a story if it's freaking Doom. I love Doom. It doesn't mean you're going to hell shooting zombies shooting demons, and demons shooting bang bang, boom boom. Cyber demon dies once you shoot it enough times. I mean, I love that game, but there's just it's particularly when it comes to RPGs and stuff. It's just I'd like to have something where it feels like it's a living, breathable kind of world. It's its own entity unto itself. And a lot of times it just doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, and I know there's some series where they're taking strides to really stand out from the pack. But it's just, in like the last 2 decades, I just felt there's more memorable games. Now, it could be because I was a kid and was open to more ideas, and probably by the time Awakening happened, I kind of seen it all, and especially for that series, because I've played so many Fire Emblem games up until that point, for Awakening to happen, I was just like, yeah. I mean, you can't win them all. I think that's probably the tagline I will say with Fire Emblem Awakening. But at the end of the day, I enjoyed playing the game for the most part, so that's not a bad thing.
Well, I didn't mind it, but I was not a fan enough to keep it. I actually sold it, and to some people that might sound kind of blasphemous, but I mean, I may love the Fire Emblem series, I love it to pieces, but I'm allowed to not like something, even if it's from a series I love, you don't have to, just because you say that you are a fan of something doesn't mean that you don't have the black sheep, or you don't have ones that you don't like. I mean, it's a natural kind of thing. Anything else you want to add to this? I think this is a pretty good.
Yeah, we pretty much covered everything.
I think I've spewed enough hatred towards the game.
Yeah, and I've kind of supported you in most of that. So, like, at all means, like, anyone wants to get in the Fire Emblem series, I think I stand with Taylor saying I urge to play something like Sacred Stones or Rekono Ken. But if Awakening is kind of like ease of access, I don't know. Because you can get Sacred Stones and Reckoner Ken on the Wii U, but if you don't own a Wii U and own a 3DS, well, I don't know. Maybe if it's like ridiculously cheap, maybe.
I highly doubt it. It's probably overpriced. Wait, unless you, sorry, people who don't have the game who have to go through people who resell for exorbitant prices. Like Greg said, try the Wii U route. I mean, that seems like the best chance. If you haven't tried those, other than Awakening. I mean, yeah. So I think that wraps up for this first episode. There, we tried to do a good job. I hope you guys did a good job.
I had a good chat. It's been a long time since I talked about Awakening, and it's not going to be all the shit on everything. It's just going to be once in a while. But that's always something that is always, whenever we talk about Fire Emblem, it's always in the back of our mind. So it's good to kind of purge that from our systems.
Yeah, we've cleansed the spirits, and yeah, we let it all out there.
In time for its release. So
right. So yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this. Is there anything else you want to add there, Greg?
No, it's all been fun in games. Fun talking about games.
Most definitely. So yes, so thanks for listening to this first episode. If you have any sort of comments, any sort of feedback, good, bad, or whatever, if you want to join us, I'm up for it any sort of time. Well, I mean, when we record sort of thing, but I'm up for anybody who'd like to join in. Just let us know.
Most definitely, come on board and have a good old time.
Do it. So, yes. So thanks for listening. This is the end. At least for this episode. I hope it wouldn't be the end of everything. That'd be kind of depressing. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Have a good one, and see you next time.